Okay, now it turns out that since we have shown that we can create arrays from a list or from different types of lists. Basically, that's how you create an array. You create an array from a list or from a tuple. Some of the things which you can do with lists and also tuples can also actually be done with arrays. One of those things is when you want to do a slice. That is when you want to select more than one value from your array. So you can actually do slicing. And of course, how do you do slice? You do it with list. In this case, with the list, you start with the name of the list, then a pair of square brackets. Then inside the pair of square brackets, you have a start index, then the slice, then the end index, and sometimes how many steps you want to do the thing. Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, so you can actually do a slice the same way you do a slice with a Python list. So in this case here, so we create a list, an array A from a list. So here, this is the list we're using. It has got items 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And the name of the array is going to be A. There. Okay. Then we display our A, which is that. So this is our array. Now we can actually select the second, starting from second item, all the way up to but less than up to the third item here. So third item, this item with index 3, that is the fourth item, but it's not included. So index 1, so this is index 0, this is index 1, index 2, index 3. So the index 3, which is 13, will not be included. So basically what you're selecting is just 12 and 11 and 12. So this slice, so as you can see, the start index, then the actual slice itself, the end index, but the end index item is not included in our slice. So when you do that, this is what you get. So you get 11 and 12. So basically, this is the same as when you were slicing lists. Is that clear? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Next, again, we start from first item, second item, all the way up to parts, excluding the second from last item. The second from last item, again, is the 13. So all the way up to but excluding the 13, and that gives us that. Okay, or you can do this, you can use negative indices, you still get the same thing. Okay. Again, you can omit some indices. For example, if you omit the start index, so if you omit the start index, you're basically saying start from the beginning all the way up to but less than this fourth item here. So you start from the beginning, so you get the first three items there. You can also give an index, but you exclude, you omit the last item, the last index. So when you do that, you start from this particular position, which is second from last all the way up to last, like that. So you can see that the slicing is actually the same. In this case, you can also slice here. When you have this like this, basically you're saying get every second item. Okay, when you do that, this is what you get. So you get items in steps of 2s, and of course if you want everything, you just use your slice like that. There's something called fancy indexing, which is a form of indexing, but we use it with these arrays. So let's see how that works. So here we generate an array of items or values starting from 0 all the way up to 1 less than 80 in steps of 10. So when you do that, then you display your A. So this is what you have. So you have start from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Then you you store in this list, the indices of the values you want to access from this array. So for example, I want to access the item with index 1, I want to access the item with index 2, I also want to access the third last item. So the item with index 1 is this one, the item with index 2 is this one, I also want to access the third last item. So you can put the indices of the items you want to access in a list, then you store that list as indices, so you can use these list of indices as here. So you have your array A, then what is it you want to access? So you put it in square brackets, then you give the list which contains the indices you want to access. So in that case, this gives you access to 10, 20, and 50. 10 is the second item, 20 is the third item, 50 is the third item from the last. Is this clear?
Yes.
Yeah, 50 is the third item from the last. This, as you can see, is an array which has been generated. So this array you get by using this fancy indexing business here. You can also store it in a variable y. Then when you display y, what you get is actually an array. So you can index more than, so there is where you're indexing with one value, with a single index. When you index with a single index, what you get is a single value. When you index using a slice, when you're doing slicing, you get multiple values. But there's another way of getting multiple values like this. Are we clear? Where you create a list which contains the indices of the items you want to access. Now, this kind of indexing does not happen normally in Python, hence the term fancy indexing, kind of like trying to be fancy or whatever it is. Okay. You can also do indexing, fancy indexing, using what is known as a Boolean mask. So in this case, we create a mask, or a mask which is an array of true or false values, and as we know, those true or false values can be represented with ones and zeros or true or false values. So in this case, my list which I want to create is this one. This is a list, as you can see, which contains 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. Then with this data type, I want to change these values 0 and 1 into booleans. So that's what this is doing here. So I want to change the 0 and 1s into true or false values. So if it's a 0, it's going to be changed into a false. If it's a 1, it's going to be changed into a true. So I want to create an array of true or false values. With this array of true or false values, whatever is going to be created, this array of true or false values, I'm going to store it in this variable called mask, which I do that. Then when I display mask, as you can see, what I get are true, false, false, true, false, true, false, false. So everywhere where there was a 0, it's replaced by false. Where there's a 1, it's replaced by true. I can check the size of this thing, how many items are there. So there are 8 items, like that. Okay, I can use this now, this mask, to get values, because this is the first position. It has got a value of false. This is the second position. It has got a true value. So I can get where the position where it is true, I can get those particular values, and where it's false, I don't want to get those particular values. So I want to get the values where it's true, which is the second item and the third item. The rest of the items, and also this one here, the third from last. So in this case, if I do this, if I use this as a mask, so I say A, which is an array, then I give it the mask this, what I end up getting is this. So I get a 10, I get a 20, and I get a 5. So this is how you would use a Boolean mask to obtain true or false values. This is the same thing which we have here. But you can see that in this case, this was a bit more clear. And here we have an array which has got a lot more values, but it still does the same thing. But this thing of using a Boolean mask has got its own uses where it works better than other things. Okay, for example, here we create, you can also, so apart from just using creating a mask using zeros and ones, then changing those zeros and ones into true or false values, you can also create a mask using a condition. For example, if you're only interested in values in the array A which are less than or equals to 30, so you can use less than or equals to 30. So you see, this is what you get. So the first value is less than or equals to 30 true, second value less than or equals to 30 true, third value is less than or equals to 30 true, fourth value is less than or equals to 30 true, but these other ones, these other values in this array are false. So by using this condition A less than or equals to 30, you actually generate a Boolean mask, a Boolean array. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes. So you can use this outcome, which is an array of true or false values, you can store it as a mask. So we are storing it as mask 2. So A less than or equals to 30, we're storing that as mask 2, like that. So then once you have your mask, you can print out your mask. Then you can use this mask to access items or values which satisfy these true values in A, like that. So basically, for our condition A less than or equals to 30, these are the values which satisfy that particular condition. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. Display array T. Okay, this is our array T. That's for time. I want to display only three significant figures. So that's that. I already displayed as T. That's that. So basically, not three decimal places. A precision of 3. Not set to three decimal places. I think 3 decimal places. Then using this, I create using the T. I create another array. So I work out sin T, and that sin T, the values of sin T, I store them in W. Then I display W. So this is W. So as you can see, W, there are some values up to somewhere where some are small, but there's some value up to here. All these values are positive. Then the following values after that are negative, as is supposed to be the case for a sine function, because the first half is positive, the second half is negative. So if you only want to display, if you're only looking for values where W is greater than or equals to 0, so in that case you set a condition, this W greater than or equals to 0. So when you do that, what you get, as you're going to see, you're going to get an array of true or false values. So there's this kind of array you can get when you check your array against a particular condition. So in this case, you only want values where W or your array has got values which are greater than or equals to 0. So in that case, at each position where this condition is satisfied, you get a true. At each position where the condition is not satisfied, you get a false. So you get this array. This array, like as we have said, you can store it as a mask. That's mask 3. Then you display mask 3 here, like that, and this is what you get. So you can use this mask now to filter out only those values which satisfy your condition of W greater than or equals to 0. So if you put the mask there, then these are the values you get, only those ones which satisfy your particular condition. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, there is another way of doing this, is where you're using what's known as the where keyword. So in this case, you are looking for the indices, or I think you're looking for the indices or the values where a particular condition is true. So remember what we have? We had this, where W is greater than or equals to 0. So you say np.where that. So what you get in this case, this is what you get. So you get the indices where this particular condition is true. So in this case with the where, you do not get a true or false value thing, but what you get is you get a list. Not a list, you get a tuple. Yeah, you get a tuple of true or false, because it's a tuple. You get a tuple of index values. Can you see that?
Yes.
Now, this tuple of index values is similar to the list which we created up there, because the tuple and the list are basically the same family. When we're doing fancy indexing, remember this list we created?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's no difference between the list and the tuple. So if we have a tuple which contains a bunch of index positions, we can use that tuple. So this is a more dynamic way of using a condition to create a list which contains indices of those particular things. Okay, so using this tuple, we can store this tuple in a mask, which is mask 4 here, there. Then you print out mask 4. Then after printing out mask 4, we can use mask 4 to do this slicing business there. Okay. All right. The last thing in this topic is something called slices are references. Okay. Now, a slice, we see when you create a slice, for example, when you create a slice like this is your array A, right? Then you create this slice. Okay, this slice here. So it looks like you have created another array, but in fact you haven't created another array. What this is referring to, 20, 30, 40, it's referring to these 20, 30, 40, which are in A. Are we clear? So you haven't right now here, you haven't created a separate array. If you get this slice, then we store this slice in what you're calling talon. Okay, let's call B. No, let's just leave it as talon. What you're calling talon, array called talon. Then you display talon like that. So that's what it gives you. So it looks like, oh, this talon is a separate array, but it's not, as we're going to see. If you modify the first value of talon, which is 20, right? Or sorry, if you modify the first value of talon, change the value 30, no, 30. If I want to change the 30 in talon, if I change 30 to 100, so if you do that, like that, then I display talon, then you see that after 20, then now it's 100. If you look at A, after 20, what do you see has happened to A? There's 100 there. Okay, so basically this is what is known as a reference. When you do a slice, your slice is not different from where you're cutting it from. Okay, it's not a separate. It's not a separate. It's not a separate object. No, it's not. But it's just another name, a name for those particular indices, that particular collection of indices. So basically, what we did is this collection here, this 20, 100. This is what is called talon. So we are saying, okay, there is this array. It's with these elements. Then these 3 elements. That's what is called talon. Are we clear?
Yes.
So in fact, when you create a slice, we did not create a separate array. Okay. So this is a bit different from what happens with a Python list, because with a Python list, once you create a slice, then you store that slice in a variable, then it's separate. Okay. With a list, it's separate. You can if you make a modification on the slice, that modification does not affect the list, the original list. But in this case, if you make a modification on the slice, then that modification affects the original thing. Okay. We also try the same thing. So item number 4, the 5th item, which is 40. So we change the value of 40 to, which is this one, 40. The 40 is this one. So the 40 is part of talon. Okay? The 40, as you can see, it's part of talon. So we want to change the value of 40 to 0. When you change the value of 40 to 0, then we display array A. So you can see that has changed. But if you also display talon, you can see that the 40 has changed. It's now 0. So we're basically talking about the same thing. So in this case, the same thing here refers to a portion of the array which we have given a name. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay, is there any question so far on this one? Okay, so we're going to stop here for now. I'm attending to my son. Let's meet at 16 hours so that we can continue with the other part.
All right.
Yeah, okay, fine. So there's part 2 coming up, so let's meet at 16 hours.
All right, thanks.
Okay, cheers.